Oh boy, we are back. We are back. Man, it's been a minute.
Yes.
I'm excited to be back. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Dead Inside podcast, a place where we talk about mental health and following Jesus, and our goal is to change the opinion surrounding mental health. My name is TJ. This is my co-host, Victor, the man, the myth, the legend.
What's up, everyone?
And man, it's good to be back. It's been a while. So we recorded our Church Hurt podcast episode last year, which is kind of weird, in December, obviously before the holidays kicked off. And man, we wanted to kind of give that time to linger and have people think about it and let it sink in and kind of let the conversation happen. We did not plan to be gone this long, obviously. What happened was, we wanted to get through the holidays, and then we were planning on coming back in January, and then everybody got the flu or the stomach bug or COVID or whatever else that everybody else had. I think you were sick, and your house was sick, and then my house was sick, and then we had a guest planned, and he got sick. His whole family got sick, and so we, it's just been a nightmare trying to get all this stuff situated. And so because of that, we are going to try to release this pretty quickly. We're recording it. Today is Friday. Hopefully on Monday, by the time you're listening to this, watching this, it'll be good. So just to kind of give you kind of an update about where we're headed, just so that everybody is kind of clear and familiar. We are today, the episode is pretty much on the idea that you cannot heal without humility. You can't heal without humility. And we're going to talk about all kinds of stuff. I'm excited to see where this conversation goes. We've got some episodes coming up. We are going to actually do a follow-up to the Church Hurt podcast. What did I say? Church Hurt podcast. You can tell it's been a while. We want to kind of dive into a few other things on that front. The responses that we got from the first episode were great. But they certainly were. It was a polarizing episode for some. A lot of people really loved it. Some people were like, man, it kind of felt like really churchy. And admittedly, I'm a pastor and AB is a pastor. And so, I could see how that would kind of come across. And so what I want to do is not to appease people. Let me be clear. This podcast will never aim to appease anybody. This is not one of those things of like, I'm trying to please you. No, like I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing this for the Lord. I'm doing this because he told me to. And hopefully it's going to help people in the process. But the reason why I want to follow up on the Church Hurt podcast is, I keep saying Church Hurt. So we're hurting people. No, the Church Hurt podcast is because I want to dive into some different angles on that. Like I want to talk about why the stuff that exists in the church is hurting people in the first place, like why it's there and what needs to happen to it and how reform needs to happen. Right. And so we've got one of my best friends since high school coming on the podcast for that, him and his wife. Hopefully we are going to get that situated soon. We've got some other episodes coming up with surrounding the stigma of taking medicine within the church, which is a big one. For some reason, people are okay with you going to the doctor to get cancer medication, but not mental health medication. So that's kind of crazy. And not here, right? But there are places apparently that think that way. And so we're going to talk about that. And we've got another episode coming up on the false self, which I'm really pumped about. That is probably one of my favorite topics to talk about within mental health. And just kind of being disoriented by your false self and learning how to get reoriented, like looking through things through the right lens. So really excited about that. But today, the power of humility, right? You can't heal without humility. But first, you know what it is, man. Like, let's just catch up for a second. What's been going on? since the holidays, man? Like, what's new with you?
So one thing that I've been doing is diving into more disciplines. Right now I'm doing the no sugar thing, and it's been hard. I think I've relapsed 1,000 times in my dream. And I've been sick, like you said, I've been sick. And here now, I feel like something's coming back. But in the name of Jesus, it's going to go away.
Amen.
Yeah. And,
we ain't got time for that mess. It's the weather, dude.
Yeah, well,
it's like 70 degrees outside. 70 it's today. January.
Think about last Saturday. I think it was like 30 all day.
Yeah.
So obviously it's the weather. A couple days ago, I woke up with an itchy throat, and I'm like, not today, Satan.
Welcome to North Carolina.
Yeah.
Where the weather is about as... I can't say... No, the last time I said that, I got in trouble. I can't say that. I'll say it. One time I said that the weather was bipolar, and somebody got really upset with me. They were like, that's very insensitive.
Yeah.
All I meant was that the weather is just up and down. Like, it just... You never know what you're going to get in North Carolina. If that offends you, I'm sorry. Okay? I'm very sorry. This is a mental health podcast. You're welcome here. Thank you for tuning in. Seriously, I don't mean any offense by that at all.
Yeah, and I heard a rant that happened behind that, too, just a couple of days ago. And I thought it was funny, and I'm like, it had to have been TJ.
Great. That's awesome.
Yep. And other than that, just the kids are getting ready back to transition back to sports.
Yeah.
They take a break usually in the winter. My son is kind of doing everything right now. He's doing basketball, and his primary sport is soccer, but it was great to see him out there trying something new.
Yeah.
He's not afraid to try something, and I'm not afraid to support him in anything that he wants to do.
Right.
And I think that's big. I didn't have that type of support. If he wants to do gymnastics, man, I'm all for it, because there's a stigma only women do it. And so I told him, man, the sky's the limit.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to do, I'll support you.
Full disclosure, I did gymnastics when I was a kid. I could backflip like a madman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because
it was great, man.
I didn't do gymnastics, but I backflips was my thing, but now I'm paying for it.
Yeah.
Man, my back is killing me.
Yeah, but I couldn't. Somebody bet me like a few months ago. They were like, you can't do a backflip. And I was like, bet. And I'm much bigger than I used to be.
You did it?
I did do it.
But you were hurting.
I was hurting. I woke up the next day and my body was like, you jerk. Like it was
full regret.
Yeah. Full regret. That's dope, man.
And then diving more into, I work for church, and just trying to get everything that I need to know about my profession. I really want to, my word for the year was excellence. I'm not trying to be perfect, but I want to do an excellent job at everything that I do.
Yeah.
So I've been, I picked up more books to read. Celebration of Discipline. I hate it, but I love it.
It's a good book.
Been stuck on chapter 11 for a couple of weeks now.
Yeah.
But I think the next thing, and you've been inspiring me, man, waking up so early to go to the gym. My body knows I need it. I need it. And I believe that's my next. I'm not trying to put a whole list of disciplines in front of me, but just one at a time. I know this sugar thing is hard, especially when you work here at church.
Yeah.
Sunday mornings, you got to go to the room.
Kind of almighty, man.
Oh, my God. And in general, it's hard when my family's on a different mindset than me. My wife brought home some kind of snack, a cake, a carrot cake or something somebody gave her. Oh, my goodness. I can't tell you how many times I went over there and stared at it.
Yeah. Yeah,
so
facts.
I didn't realize how addicted I was to sugar.
Yeah.
Until I stopped, intaking it.
That's when you got to get like a piece of that cake on a plate, and then you get like a piece of lettuce, and you like smell the cake and eat the.
I'm gonna try that, bro.
It doesn't work. It pisses me off, but you know what I'm saying. That is funny. Yeah, dude, I get that. I'm in the middle of doing 75 hard, so I can't have sugar either, which is really really tough. So, yeah, I mean, I've got my big old Yeti. This is not a Stanley, by the way. I just wanted to point that out. Everybody's like, oh, you got a Stanley. No, this is a Yeti. This is the OG. I know Stanley's been around for a long time in the blue-collar world with the big old, soup containers.
Oh, yeah.
But Yeti was the first ones that did the cup well.
Facts.
I mean, this is old school right here. Like, these were popular 10 years ago. You know what I mean? When the metal cups became a thing. So...
Correct.
I'm probably wrong. I'm probably wrong when I said that. Either way, I wasn't going to buy a Stanley. I went and got a Yeti. Got to get my water in. You know what I'm saying?
I just saw a post about a woman who stole 66 Stanley Cups.
Bro.
I forgot who showed it. Somebody showed it.
That's insane.
And I think she was going to resell them high price.
Oh, the Starbucks ones.
Yeah, how much are they anyways?
I have no idea.
No,
I'm not interested at all.
Yeah, I can't afford it.
No, I like the Yeti. I mean, they're good money. I mean, the Yeti, this one right here cost me like $45, but it's worth it, man. If I drink 3 of these a day, I got a gallon in. They're 42 ounces, so it works out good for me. It's easy for me. Like I used to have one of those hydro jugs that I'd carry around. It got really annoying after a while. It's just like, man, it's just so big. I feel like a character on Fortnite just toting a jug around. Oh, Lord. You know, so, yeah, but I've been doing the 75 hard. The biggest thing for me in all of that was there was a point last year. Yeah, I've always been a really high capacity person. Like, I've never had a problem running at full speed for a long time. And what I mean by, I'm not talking about like physically running. I'm talking about like my schedule, my busyness. I've always been really fast paced. Like I've typically juggled a lot of different things that happened when I was a kid. I played sports all year round, like never stopped, you know, school, you know, social life. It was just always a thing. And as I've gotten into being an adult, man, I've realized that it really didn't set me up well, because what happens is that I run, and then I burn. Like I just burn out. You know what I mean? And the last year, I wasn't feeling burnout, but I was definitely aware enough that 2 things: either I was way too busy, or I wasn't allocating my time and my energy properly.
Right.
And both of those things are probably true, but I realized that my schedule is probably not going to slow down just because of the nature of what we do, right? Like we have a massive youth ministry. We've just implemented midweek Bible studies with our student ministry. We're about to kick off a leadership intensive with our student ministry. Not to mention, I'm still the creative director here at the church, so I'm still doing all of that, plus the podcast, plus, you know, trying to, you know, make sure that I fit in room for my, you know, my own personal like hobbies, like just so that I can rest. And then of course, like my family time. So it's just, there's a lot going on, but I realized, man, my life is probably not going to slow down. So I need to figure out how to allocate that energy better. Right. And so the biggest thing for 75 hard, I mean, obviously, like I want to be healthy physically. I enjoy going to the gym. I don't enjoy going at 5 o'clock in the morning, but it is what it is, right? Because I tried to do the whole going to the gym at night thing, and it just would not work. I tried to go at like 8 p.m. By the time that I get home from the day and I get on that couch and like I've eaten dinner and like we're watching a show, or like, you know, I'm reading a book or something, like I'm not getting back up. Like it's just too hard for me to get up and go to the gym. So I just figured I might as well just do it first thing in the morning, eat the frog, so they say, and just be done with it. So, yeah, the biggest thing for me, I was reading a book. I've been reading a book by Carrie Newhoff called At Your Best, and my wife had actually downloaded like a sample of the book, and Rachel Gardner also kind of put me on this too. My wife had downloaded like a sample, and she was like, hey, read this book. Just read this first chapter. And if it doesn't apply to you, then don't worry about it. But if it does, then get the book and read it. And when I read the first chapter, man, it was like, I looked at her, I was like, did I write this book? Like, what is going, like, this is my life. Really? Like, this is my life. You know, just coming here to the church and, you know, working my butt off and then going home and just being tired, like being irritable with my kids, like not having the energy to do like the things that I needed to do. And then every week, like I was stressing out because, you know, Friday would roll around and I still hadn't done my message for Sunday, and there was all kinds of things that were just wrong. And so this book talks about your energy levels, and we're getting to the podcast. We're just catching up. The book talks about energy levels, like you have like your green, yellow, and red zones, and that's where you're at, like your peak, like you're kind of average, and then where you're just like crash burn. And I used to be a night owl, but that changed a ton as I got older. Now I am a morning person. So what I decided was that what was going on was that I was getting to the office around like 9, and I like these conversations would like hijack my time. Like people would come in the office, or like I'd get to talking with somebody in the hall, and like an hour would go by, and I'm like, crap, you know what I mean? Like it's just people are like I was allowing my time to be mismanaged and stolen, and then there was just distractions, and I couldn't focus. And so what I decided to do was get up, go to the gym at 5, get back to the house around 6:15, shower, fix my breakfast, get all that stuff going, and then attempt to get to the office by about 7:30, which I've been doing. And man, it's been a game changer. I've been able to be so productive because my production time is typically between that like 7:30 and lunchtime. That's probably my best of the day. Whoa. And so where I was like freaking out about my messages not being done, like they're done by Wednesday now.
Wow.
So like I've saved so much time. And then I leave the office around 3:30, and then I get home and I have something to offer my family. That's what I mean? I have energy to give them. I'm not like a shell of a human, which is nice. So I've learned how to just kind of take advantage of my energy levels when they're the best, and allocate the rest to, the stuff that doesn't require as much. And it's been awesome. So yeah, I mean, outside of that, man, like everything's been going well. Just trying to stay healthy and do this thing. You know what I mean?
And I think you also celebrated your daughter's birthday, right?
I did. She turned 4 on January 15th. So she is growing, which is wild. I remember we all, as parents, like we all remember, right? Like when the day they were born. Zeke is going to be 10, and he feels more and more like a teenager every day to me, just because he's around teenagers a lot because of what we do. And so it seems like, man, he's just really a part of that Gen Alpha crowd, very YouTube, video game, pop culture trends driven. Like the dude is just so fun. Right now he's into anime. He's been watching Dragon Ball Z, like going through the series, and like at first I was kind of like, I don't know if I really want to get into this. Like it can kind of get kind of crazy. It's not that bad, but then he started wanting to watch other animes, and I was like, like I'm stopping it here. Like Dragon Ball Z is about as far as I'll go.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he's still, he's funny, man. He's on his black belt club grind with karate, so he's fast track to get his black belt sooner than what he was. And Kobe's just the same little spicy, sweet princess that she is. So. It's been good, man. It's been good. The other
day, I walk into the back room, and she's staring at me, and I stare at her, and she said, "What did you do to my daddy?" Like, I didn't do nothing to your daddy.
She's so funny.
But she was so serious. Yeah. So let's dive right into Mount Rushmore.
Mount Rushmore. Yeah, I figured we can try to get through this pretty quickly. I don't think this is going to be a hard one at all. It feels like every time we talk about Mount Rushmore, we get into food. I don't know how that works, but here we are. If you're watching and you're like, I just want you to get to the content, just fast forward to about 25 minutes, 25, 30 minutes. We'll get there. It's not going to be a super long one today, but we just had to catch up. It's been a while. You know what I mean? So Mount Rushmore, I figured it would be appropriate for us to talk about our favorite tacos.
Oh, Lord.
And it could be like where you get them from, or like your favorite kind, like just, in general. So I'm in the middle of 75 hard, so I can't have, in theory, I can't really have like, my favorite tacos. I'd have to get like some calorie counter tortillas or something in order for that to work. But yeah, but when this thing is over, I'm definitely getting some tacos, just in moderation. So top 4 tacos. What do you think, man?
So I want to say that one of the most classic tacos that I believe for Hispanics is steak, carne asada.
Of course.
Matter of fact, I just had that a couple of days ago. But the difference between me and maybe most people is like mine's are homemade. Tortillas are made from scratch. the meat. We buy it in bulk and just chop it up. Melania does a great job at marinating. Yeah, even though she's Honduran, she's adapted very well to Hispanic Mexican culture. So I would say that steak tacos is on the top of my list. Number 2, I think, would be al pastor, and that's like pork.
Yeah.
But the way they marinate it and the way they put the
pineapple,
it makes it really juicy. It's by far not a dry food. And just to clear this out, like Mexicans or Hispanics don't eat tacos with lettuce.
Right.
Like we just don't. And if it's a flour tortilla, we consider it a burrito.
Oh, that's correct.
You know, I had a
give me the corn tortillas, dog.
And it's not in a hard shell.
Right.
You know,
right.
One of my friends on Friday was eating Taco Bell, and I was like, "Man, you trying to clear your stomach out?" And he was like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, "You'll see." At the end of the night, he was like, "Yo, my stomach is tore up."
Yeah, we call Taco Bell Taco Hell. That is, Taco Bell used to be good back in the day. I mean, for what it is, you know what I mean? It's falling off, dude. It's just falling off so much.
I think the only time I ate Taco Bell was when I was growing up, but I ate the chalupas.
Yeah.
And again, steak.
Right.
Obviously, imitated stuff. I saw a post, real tacos. It says, "This is the truth." And then it had the Taco Bell. It said, "This is the lies." So there's a number 3. It's very unpopular, even in Hispanic culture. And this is goat intestines. I know that's weird. That is so weird.
What do you call it?
Tripas.
Okay.
So what you do is, obviously, you got to clean it really well.
Yeah.
Because you know what's in the intestine.
That's correct.
But if you get somebody to clean it very well, chop it up, clean it very well again, and then you fry it, they're nice and crunchy. And this is a lot of taco shops don't even have that anymore, right? And I think the last one I would have to say is barbacoa. A lot of people nowadays are getting like a soup and dipping it in there.
Yeah.
They eat it with cheese, but I don't eat cheese, so
You're talking about
like birria.
Birria, yeah.
So I would say that's at the bottom of my list, but
It's still top 4.
Yeah, top 4, but definitely steak and al pastor is like my go-to.
Yeah.
Obviously, like you said, I haven't had a good portion. I'll have 4 tacos, but I used to eat 8. You know, I get like 4 steak and 8 for al pastor, and
facts.
So just here recently, like I said, I haven't been doing the sugar, but I need to be more disciplined on what I eat now. I've noticed that I'm still eating a lot of rice and bread, and so I'm getting ready here to cut that out and get a gym membership.
Yeah.
But what's your top 4?
Yeah, so we actually share the top 2. Like carne asada is definitely my number 1. If it's done well, you can get carne asada tacos from like just any old like Mexican restaurant.
Yeah.
And it might be like dry, or it might be like the meat's not very like, it's not the best cut, or it's not seasoned well. But like if you get tacos from an actual like taco place, like a taqueria, or like a little hole in the wall, like that, those they're doing like Ramos, right? Or there was this place in New Bern that was really, really good. They had Taco Tuesdays. You can get $1 taco every Tuesday, and so I would get like same thing you would, like 4 carne asada and then like 4 al pastor. Like their flavors were incredible. Like the way they marinated everything was really good. My whole family's from California, so I'm used to like really good, authentic food. You know what I mean? Like when we used to go out to California, I'd go out every other summer to spend time with the family. I'd be out there for about a month or so, and taco trucks were just everywhere. Like the best burritos, the best tacos. You know what I mean? And then you move, or you don't move, but like then you're over here, on the East Coast and trying to find places like that. Luckily for us, here in Smithfield, Selma, like there's tons of Hispanic people that know what they're doing, so it works out. But yeah, carne asada, al pastor. I think my third one, man, would be, I know this is kind of random because I've only had it once, but I think about it all the time. I really do. I think about it probably once a week. It like haunts me. Or those freaking tacos that you brought in that one day that had like the mixture of like what is it called? Discada. And what's in it? Tell us.
So it's steak, it's pork, it's bacon, sausage.
There was hot dogs in it, dude. Wasn't there?
Yeah, hot dogs.
Fool.
It's like a combination of like 7 meats or something.
That one was crazy good. It was crazy good, dude. The flavor was out of this world. I think about it a lot, man. Like, I'll wake up some mornings and be like, yo, I want that hot dog taco. You know what I'm saying? That's what I call it. And then my fourth one, I know this is kind of like basic white boy because nobody's really going to do these kind of tacos like at an authentic place, but I love shrimp so much that I feel like I got to have like a shrimp taco. You know what I mean? Like a really good shrimp taco with like a, I don't know, like a crema, you know, kind of a Baja type of sauce that would go on it. Of course, like the regular red and green sauce as well. But and then I do have an honorable mention. Actually, I'd probably don't judge me. I would probably back up the shrimp tacos to the honorable mention because this is not fair. I totally forgot. This has got to be my number 4. There's a place in the Outer Banks called Mama Kwan's, and they have blackened mai, which is fish. And dude, those fish tacos are the best things I've ever for as far as like fish tacos. My God, bro, it is. And they put like it. I mean, they're kind of not really authentic, you know, Mexican tacos, but they put like some slaw and some like they make this like lime sour cream and then you put sriracha on it. Dude, the flavors are just out of this world. It's insane. Wow. So yeah, those would probably be my top 4. So huge fan of that. Tacos are definitely my love language.
Man, I hope there's tacos in heaven, bro.
If they're well, I think there will be. I really do. Yeah. I think our mansions will be full of the things we love. So tacos, it's got to be on the list. You know what I mean? I think so. They are from God. Either way. Amen. So, yeah, man. So, just getting into the subject matter here. I mean, we're talking about what we decided to do as a podcast was that when we don't have guests on, that we would really just kind of go through the things that we know, right? The things that we know to be true. A lot of it comes from the Recovery Alive handbook, which is, you know, kind of source material almost for a lot of what we do, mainly because that is the perfect balance of like following Jesus and like recovery, not just from like drugs and alcohol or from anything else, but like mental health and like trauma. And it just teaches really, really healthy steps of like how to figure this stuff out with the Holy Spirit's help. And so we did, you know, our last episode that we did was about, you know, you're not in control, right? Which is the first step, right? You got to realize that you're not in control. And then a lot of people, when they come to that realization that they are not in control, well, the next step is they've got to be humble enough to admit it, right? When you realize that I am weak, like I don't have what it takes to do this life on my own. If I did, I would do it, and we don't, right? We can't. So we like to say around here that weakness is the reality, and humility is a choice. Correct. Weakness is our reality. Humility is our choice. What we do with the realization that we are weak determines what we do next. Like what we do with that idea. Like, are we humble enough to admit it, or are we going to sit in our pride and just, you know, I'm good, I'm fine. The other day I was in the gym and I put this up on my Instagram story, just kind of some gym thoughts. And the thing that I put was that if you are not humble, you will never heal.
That's good.
There's no way. There's no way. If you're not humble, you'll never heal. There are way too many people that I know who are stuck in bondage because they make statements like, I'm fine. I'm good. I'm not that bad.
Oh, well.
Compared to other people, I've kind of got it together. When I look at everyone else in comparison to me, I'm fine. And man, it is dangerous. It is harmful. And I think that it's holding a lot of people back, man, from experiencing life in the full that Jesus has for us. Pride is a beast. And I think, like, I have this conversation with my wife all the time. Pride is just at the foundation of sin. Right? Like,
Correct.
Everything that we shoot for in life is based in pride, right? The pride of life, the pride of the eyes, the pride of the flesh. Everything that we do comes from pride. You can always take everything back to pride. Always. I mean, think about it, right? I mean, think about anything that anybody would ever deal with. It all goes back to pride.
And something touching on pride, like we see how it manifests in a look at me type of way, but also think of pride as in nobody's never been through this. I'm the only one. That's still pride.
Yeah.
Because I've seen people here in church, they would never get it. They would never understand me. I'm not going to go speak about this because I'm probably the only one in the church going through this.
Yeah.
Like
they think that their situation is so unique that like no one else would get it.
And that's still pride.
That is pride.
That's still pride.
Yeah, no doubt. And I like what you said there. Because what happens, I think, a lot of the times, man, is that when we think about pride, like when we say the word pride, our minds automatically go to the egotistical, narcissistic, megalomaniac, we think about those people, right? The larger than life, they think they are all that in a bag of chips. We think about those types of people. And the problem with that is that while that there is pride there, of course, the problem with that is that if we think that's what pride looks like, then we never see the pride in ourselves if that's not what it takes the form of.
Yeah, because it's a blind spot.
Because it is a blind. Well, that's the whole point, right? Like the whole thing about pride is that we typically can't see it. And I think what happens is, like, especially within the church, right? Me and John talked about this on our episode. Pride for a lot of churches looks like, I don't need to heal. Like, I'm fine. Those people need that.
Yeah.
Right? I was just having this conversation the other day with someone at lunch. The reason why I think the mental health stigma is so large, not just in the world, but within the church in particular, I think it's getting better. But I think the reason why it's there is because there are a lot of church people who just have a lot of pride. They don't ever want to admit that, like, man, I'm going through some stuff too. They think that they've got to put on this mask, this facade, this front that, I'm fine and God is good and he's blessed me and my family's perfect and my marriage is perfect. And let me just make sure that I post that on Instagram one more time so that everybody can see it. And I just want to remind those people that God doesn't bless who you pretend to be.
Oh, no.
He only blesses the real you.
Yeah.
Because he's not going to line up with your pretend version of yourself. Because he's not going to continue to allow you to go down that path of just pretending. And so in the church, what I think is what happens is the reason why that mental health stigma is so large is because we go, well, those people need mental health help. The people who are depressed and anxious and suicidal and they've got trauma and they're, they got multiple personality disorders, or they're bipolar, or they're schizophrenic, or, they're just, they're on edge all the time. Like, we all got issues, fam.
Yeah.
All of us. And the sooner that we can arrive to that place of going, man, like, I've got problems too, and it may not manifest in the same way that their problem manifests, but man, like, let me be humble enough to look within and see the things that I'm dealing with, like to see the things that I'm struggling with. But man, pride will keep so many people from doing that.
From receiving anything.
I
get a lot of people that say, I don't understand an addiction. but you definitely understand judgment because you're judging them. So I definitely, I always try to hear people out and see what they are addicted to. I sit in a room a lot of times when I do these process groups, just small groups, and talk with men. None of them will admit that they have an addiction to their phone.
Yeah.
They're in denial. Oh, I can control it. Well, stay off of it for a week. See how it works out for you.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with other people who say, well, why do they keep using? Why do they keep drinking? Why do they keep having these depressive thoughts? And that's one of the things where we put the word weakness. If I'm not going to allow myself to be weak, then how can I receive anything that's meant for me? You said it yourself that God won't bless who you pretend to be. And I think a lot of people come to church pretending to be somebody they're not. Pride, again, we go with the title. Well, this person has a title and he's arrogant and he's self-centered. But in reality, we all carry some type of pride. It doesn't have to manifest the way you said it. It doesn't have to manifest in the title. But to not admit your weakness, it's still a form of pride.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think like when I sit down and I talk with people, like I would almost rather sit down with the people that we would consider to be like narcissists or like egomaniacs. Because typically, not all cases, but typically when you sit down with those people, they know they have a pride problem. It's just too much for them to figure out how to handle on their own. They got to have coaching. They got to have people that can point out when they're doing something. And a lot of it, man, what I've learned about narcissism is that narcissism a lot of times is taught.
Yes.
No one talks about this enough.
Yes.
If we want to talk about, I didn't plan on going here, but now that we're here, I just feel like it needs to be said. We have a very narcissistic culture, period, right now. And it hasn't always been that way, I don't think. I don't think it's always been that way. I think it's that way right now. Widespread, I see it because I'm a youth pastor, I see it a lot. It's just the way that we've passed things down. It's just made our kids so narcissistic. Like they only think about themselves because we celebrate everything's about me, right? Think about this. Participation trophies.
You went there.
Dude, yeah, I'm going to go there. Participation trophies are the most narcissistic thing on the planet.
Wow.
I mean, probably not the most, but it's definitely up there. Think about it. I didn't put in the work that everyone else did to win. Right. And I'm not that guy. Like, I'm not all about, I think sports are fun. You know what I mean? I'm not always aiming to win. I am a competitive person. But, like, when I coached my son's basketball team, like, I'm not making them run suicides because they lost a game. Like, they need to have fun, but they also need to try.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I'm not interested in coaching a bunch of kids that are not going to try. They're just there, and they think they deserve something that they haven't earned. Right, when it comes to that field in particular, and so participation trophies are narcissistic because they teach our kids, well, I don't have to do anything and I still deserve it.
Wow.
Like I don't have to do anything to earn the trophy; it's just given to me, and so then we believe that that's how life works, right? Take me to the store and buy me something. Why? I don't know, because I want it.
Yeah.
Okay, but like I've asked you to do this, this, and this, and you haven't done it.
Correct.
Like, yeah, but I still want the toy. I don't care.
Yeah.
Like you're not gonna get you don't deserve the toy. You didn't earn the toy. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm not, again, man, like I want to be careful here. Because I'm not the guy, like, when it comes to our salvation, there's nothing we can do to deserve that. There's nothing we can do to earn that. I'm not talking about that in particular part of life, right? I'm talking about just the idea that we have allowed pride and narcissism to seep so into our culture that we're seeing it widespread. We see it in our kids, whether they're coming up, right? We see, I don't want to step on toes here, but like gentle parenting. Oh, gentle, it's tough for me, man. Like, I get it. Like, I understand why it's a thing, but like, giving your kids like choices about like, what do you want for dinner? You're gonna eat what I fix. You know what I mean? Like, and I don't like, and that might feel old school. I'm only 32, so I'm not like, I'm a millennial, a true millennial. I'm not like a Gen Xer or like a boomer, and I was raised kind of old school. But like, I still see value in teaching your kids, like, hey, like, this is just how it is sometimes. You know what I mean? Like, this is what we fix for dinner. If you don't eat it, like, what are you gonna eat? Because like, groceries are expensive, and I'm not fixing double the meals just because you don't feel like eating this and you only want to eat this. Like, it's just, again, man, and it might come across as harsh. I'm not trying to be that way, but I mean, there's just no, like, we got to teach humility. We got to teach that we're not always first. We got to teach that we don't always get what we want. We got to teach that, like, and what happens is, man, like, so we teach our kids, these tendencies of like, well, you get what you want because you're just my kid, and like, here's a participation trophy, here's whatever you want, go to bed whenever you want, do what you want, and then they get older and do what they want to do, and then we go, I don't understand what went wrong.
Wow.
What do you mean?
Ouch.
What do you mean? And then they're not even humble enough to see what's wrong, because they were never taught humility. They were only taught you get what you want. They were only taught, hey, like, when you mess up, there are no consequences. Hey, when you do something wrong, nothing happens to you because I'm gonna coddle. No. We're creating pride in that way, and we can't do that. You know what I mean? We can't do that. And so what I'm seeing is that narcissism, it's almost easier to sit down with a narcissistic person because, again, like, it's taught, and you can, if you're taught something, then you can unlearn it. Does that make sense?
It does.
There are two things that we are naturally born into fearing. That is the fear of falling and the fear of loud noises. Those are the only two things that we are born into the world fearing, is falling and loud noises. Everything else that we learn to be scared of, we have been taught. Wow. So the rest of the tendencies that we grow up with, and for some people, they're not taught narcissism, they've caught narcissism. What happens is that they, for many people, it's kind of weird, man. Like, we can teach the pride, we can teach the whole, like, you're first and the world revolves around you and I'm just ducking every time the sun comes around. We can do that. But we can also create very prideful people because they learn these defense mechanisms from never getting what they need. My parents were working all the time, so I never got the affirmation that I wanted. So I had to come up with ways to get that for myself. And then their defensive mechanisms are now, well, I don't trust people. I don't let people in because every time I do, I get hurt. So this is my pride now. My pride is I'm only going to think about myself because no one else has. So there is a tendency that, that is harmful. So, I mean, there's so many different things that play into it, but I really do believe that some people are taught narcissism. Some people have caught narcissism. And then, to try to get through to someone that doesn't even know that they are narcissistic, that's what's hard. Those are the harder ones. That's where it's like, yeah, like, you're not even seeing, because you're not even seeing that you're in the wrong. It's completely lost on you that you are only thinking about the way that you want to think about things, which is why I no longer argue with people that only want to understand at their level of perception. I don't debate. I don't waste my energy with people who only want to hear things that they have preconceived to hear. If I go into a conversation, right, in leadership, right, like we have to have hard conversations sometimes with people. If I go in and I go, hey, like I noticed this, and somehow it gets turned back around, and it's like, no, like that's not true. That's not it. That's not how that went. Okay. I can't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't even know what to do with you right now because I'm not going to convince you to see it from my perspective because you're so bent on seeing it from yours. It's just pride. You know what I mean? And some people just don't even know that it's there. Right? Which I think that's why it's really important for humility to bring about self-awareness. I think what we see in a lot of prideful people is a lack of self-awareness. How do I know? Because I had zero self-awareness for like the majority of my life. That's why I feel comfortable enough to even call this stuff out, to talk about this stuff. You know what I mean? Because I've been on that side of the fence where I was so egotistical and arrogant and prideful and had zero self-awareness.
Wow.
Zero self-awareness. And now I'm on the other side of the fence where like life has humbled me. God has humbled me. It wasn't fun. It never was. But I've learned and I've grown and I've gotten into some health. And now I want to be like, oh, please let me help you over the fence.
Yeah.
Let me help you over the fence. And so when I say these things, when I'm talking about narcissism and pride and all this stuff, like I'm not trying to be hateful. I'm not trying to be harsh. I've just seen the reality of what it does. And I want to help people. Man, like humility is the gateway to seeing life for what it is.
Right.
For seeing yourself for how you are. You know, taking a step back and going, man, what was my part in this? Like, how was I harmful? What did I say wrong? What did I do wrong? And then trying to fix those things. You know, like if you're not self-aware, man, like you'll blow up your own spot. You know what I mean?
And I want to touch back on the participation trophies.
Ooh, okay.
So my son's been playing soccer since he was 2 years old, man. The dude could literally barely walk and he's kicking the ball, right? So he turned 6 years old and I said, you know, let me put him in Parks and Rec. Put him in Parks and Rec, and immediately I knew he had something special. I believe that his first season, he scored 54 goals.
Dang.
Yeah, it was wild. And then at the end of the season, obviously, everyone gets a participation trophy. I remember a kid that only showed up to 3 games, and he's just waving that trophy. And nothing against the child because he doesn't know any better.
Yeah.
So I enroll him again, 7 years old. He's still dominating. I think he scored somewhere between 45 and 50 goals that season. Obviously, a little bit more tougher. Kids were bigger. And my son was full of himself, but he didn't know it. And I was playing into that. And this is before I came to church. So somebody invited me to a tournament in Raleigh. And I'm thinking, man, my son is the best. He goes up there and he does nothing because these kids been playing longer than him. And he comes home and he's all sad. Dad, I didn't score, I didn't this. And he's coming from scoring every game to not doing anything. So that put me in a position to say, am I going to stay down here and keep humiliating all the kids who don't have a daddy maybe and practice? Or am I going to enroll him into something where there's development now? So I decided to take him to Wake Forest. It's 45 minutes from here. And I said at the beginning that I'll support him in anything that he wants to do, right? So he gets to Wake Forest and he gets to the bottom level of his age group. And he's just heartbroken because, again, here he's doing everything. He's scoring. People are cheering for him. People know his name now. And we go up there to where nobody knows him. It was a blow to him. I remember when we got home, he started crying. He's like, Dad, why did I make it to this level? He thought he was going to make it. They have gold is the top color and white even surrender, right? White is the bottom color, and he made it to white. Well, I said, look, we're gonna push through it. I'm gonna help you train. You're not giving up. So we get into the lab. We get the training. He gets on the treadmill. He starts doing sit-ups. We start aiming practice and all that. Well, just a few days ago, he was moved up to, it's called, what color is it? I think it's the red team, which is 2 teams ahead of where he was at. So he skipped some levels. And I said, it's no doubt in my mind that come springtime, you'll get to gold. But that illusion of control also had to be shattered in him. Now I'm teaching him to be a little bit more humble. Playing on the basketball team, he's not the greatest basketball player. He plays, but not at the capacity of everyone who's been playing for a long time. So he got to see the bench a lot of times. I remember one game, I said, hey, you're going to play a tough team. Let's just go to Raleigh and practice soccer, and you won't go to your basketball game. He said, no, Dad, I need to be at my basketball game. And I was like, bro, you're not going to play. And he's like, no, I need to support my teammates. And that hit me different because I said, so now you know how your other friends in soccer feel when they're on the bench the whole time. He's like, yeah, Dad. And the way God does these things, he partnered with me to help my son be humble. And now, like I said, we started soccer, and he said, okay, Dad, now it's time for me to do my thing.
Yeah.
So he understood the assignment. He's like, I'm here to learn something, humility. And it was his choice. Do I stay on the basketball team, on the bench the whole season? And I think out of 15 games, he got less than 10 minutes. But he was at practice putting in the work. He's like, Dad, I'm going to be a starter next year. And I'm like, you've already called it? He's like, yeah, Dad, I'm going to work on my threes. I'm going to on my layups. And he just put it in his heart, right? So the participation thing, from the beginning, I even spoke to the person in charge of the Parks and Rec. I said, hey, why don't we just give everybody a certificate of participation instead of at the season give everybody a trophy, because God knows that this team lost every game, but they got a trophy anyways. Now, what are we doing to the kids psychologically? You know, we're growing up and saying, even if I lose every game, I'm still a winner. There's a lot of truth behind that in the stigma where we do want these kids to be the best or try their best. But you can't tell me that a kid who only showed up to 2 games got a participation trophy. Mother posted him on Facebook like if he was the star. And again, this is before I came to church, so my thoughts about that weren't in the right place. I never expressed my opinion, but I had an understanding within me that is not safe for the kid. Now the kid, again, he's a 7th grader, just like my son. Has bad grades, but has everything also, like a PS and all these gadgets. I don't know all the gadgets they have now, but I saw him here at youth one day, and he looked at me like, who are you? I was like, you don't remember me? I used to coach a team and this and that. He was just walking around with his nose in the air, right? But his mama told me, like, I have no control of him. I need help. Can you talk to him? Can you mentor him? And I remember when he was little, I was like, I wish it would have started there and not where we're at now. And I'll touch another thing about humility. I remember I went on a camping trip, bro, with my Caucasian friends, right? So we go to a camping trip, and I'm acting like I know what is going on, bro. Like I got a tent. I went and bought one, and I see the instructions, and I'm like, the heck, bro, like what is so hard to do? A little triangle and put it all together. I remember when I finished building this thing, I had a hard time, but by the time I finished, I had some pieces missing. And that night in particular, it started raining. And I had missed the top part of my little tent because I refused to read the manual and ask one of the parents for help. One of the parents luckily saw the stupidity that I was doing, and he just let me. He let me, right? But I remember he let me, stay in his tent with his son. And the next day, I remember how stupid I felt. I simply just had to ask somebody who knew for help, and that's what I did when I came to church.
Yeah.
I was faced with a reality, and I had a choice to make. Am I going to let somebody who's been down this road help me, or am I just going to continue to drown? And when I came in here, I believe I heard a testimony, and that testimony had something to do with something that I was struggling with. The first thing I did was, hey, you think we can talk outside of church? And I think that was me humbling myself to say, I need your help. This person walked this thing out with me for a whole year. And based on the advice that that person gave me, I'm now been able to give it back to someone else. Was it really hard for me to ask this person for help? Yes. For one, it was a stranger, right? And then we always get into, when I walked in here, bro, nothing against my white friends, but a lot of white people were in this church. And that was daunting to me. You know, around that time, it was the whole Trump situation going on. And I'm like, are they with me or are they against me? But people here in church welcome me. And that's why I feel at home here. Now the Hispanic population here is growing. And that's just a replica of what somebody did for me, right? Somebody welcomed me, so I'm welcoming others. We're posting pictures. We just want to help others. And we know how hard it is to accept the help. So we definitely don't push an agenda on anyone. Yeah. We simply offer, say, hey, here's my number. Call me whenever you're ready. Because I know how hard it is to just pick up the phone. I've had people say, hey, man, I've been meaning to call you for a whole month. And every time I pick up the phone, I put it back down. Because it's daunting to admit that you're weak. Because weakness is like, I am receptive to be attacked. So my son, like I said, he's just really humble now. I love that God orchestrated this the way it was supposed to. My daughter was the same way. She's scoring last season, 2023. She starts off her soccer season. In 5 games, I believe she had already 25 goals. And she was destined to beat the record. She plays a team and she gets injured and loses the whole season. This injury was supposed to take her out. And now that, you know, we've processed everything that happened, she's anticipating her senior season now. But she said, Dad, I believe I know why God did this to me. And I said, you know, he did this to you? He's like, yeah, I know. He said, I was too prideful. I was looking down on everyone like I'm the best. I don't need nobody's help. And she's been able to dive into this mental health stuff as well. Yeah. And she's been able to navigate humility in the proper way.
And what a picture of like how God does do those things, man. Like he will humble us quickly, right? If we are prideful, like his goal in us is always humility. Because we can't have a relationship with the Lord unless we understand how much we need him. It's just impossible, right? James 4, I think it's verse 10, says that if we humble ourselves in the sight of the Lord, then he will lift us up, right? And I think that's so it's interesting, man, because there's so many things you said I want to touch on. I don't want to ramble here or get on a tangent, but like even going back to like your son, right? Like, so, you know, Zeke is 9 and he can't really do sports like that because he's got really bad asthma. He was actually born with a condition called alpha-1 antitrypsin, which is where the proteins that are supposed to protect your lungs don't process through his liver the right way. And so, like, man, if you ever notice, man, he'll get to laughing and he'll just like start coughing, like, because he can't, his lungs are just weak. And so we did the whole soccer thing. He didn't even make it a whole season. We did the basketball thing and he just had a hard time. You know what I mean? He's in karate now because it's paced and he loves that. So it was interesting because I was wondering, like, you know, if he plays sports, like this is a great way to learn humility. You know, sports is always a really good way to learn humility, learn teamwork, to learn how to depend on other people, to be a team player. And I was just kind of wondering, like, man, God, how are we going to do this now? I mean, I know there are other ways that we could teach him humility, but like that would have been a whole lot easier to kind of go that route. You know, they almost kind of see it themselves in a way sometimes, but God gave me the perfect opportunity, just partnered with me. You know what I mean? And I love that. Zeke is really into Fortnite. He's always been, and he's good. Like he's very good. Yeah. Wow. But it started to get to his head. You know what I mean? And he's 9, so you know what I mean. Like I don't think he really even I don't think he understood how like arrogant it was kind of like coming across. But like, man, he would just talk junk to everybody, dude. Wow. He'd be like, I'm smacking you. You're terrible. You're dog water. Wow. Get out of my lobby. Like, I mean, just like going off. And kind of got to a place where he was that way with me. Like, we would play like, you know, 1v1, you know, on some like creative map. And, you know, if he killed me, he'd be like, you suck, Dad. And I'm like, yo, like, what is like, you can't beat me up, Zeke. Like, calm down. You know what I mean? And so it was interesting because then like one day it just kind of came to a head. And I was like, man, like, I don't, you know, being a kid is hard. It's frightening. It's hard being a parent watching your kid and going, bro, if he continues to be this way, like no one's going to want to hang out with him.
Oh man.
That's hard. Like, man, if he keeps going down this path of like being like arrogant or like, you know, being like full of himself, like no one's going to want to be around him. And I know that because I was that way and it was hard for me for a long time. And so I just had a conversation with him about humility. I was like, man, like, don't, like, you can be good at something, but don't brag about it. Ooh. You know what I mean? Like, you can be good at something, but don't go fishing for compliments. Like, you can be good at something and you can be confident in it, but don't be a jerk about it, you know? And it's funny, man, because I saw it come around full circle. It was really interesting. We kept having that conversation over and over for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. And we would play Fortnite and he'd go, yeah, boy. Like he'd kill somebody. He'd go, yeah, boy. And then he'd pause and he goes, Dad, was that cocky? Was that arrogant? I was like, no, man, like that was fine. Like you're good. And then one day, man, it was just me and him were going back and forth. We were playing online and we were playing with one of my friends and he was just being, you know how people like kids like to show off in front of others.
Yeah.
And so he was showing off and he was talking all this junk. And then he said, let's 1v1, let's 1v1. And, like straight up, like I was murdering him. Like just like no mercy. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, yeah, boy, you're dog water. Like just messing with him, you know?
Yeah.
And he paused and he goes, Dad, you're being arrogant.
Oh, man.
And I was like, yo. Like it was funny in the moment.
Yeah.
But it also like, it clicked.
I taught him something.
Okay. Like he understands.
He felt it.
Like he's getting it. You know, that self-awareness is leading to humility. And that was a really cool moment as a parent for me. And man, I'm hoping that as we teach our boys humility, that maybe we will avoid toxic masculinity in our own homes.
Oh yes.
You know, this podcast is never geared towards one sex or the other. You know, I'm never going to have like an episode that's just for guys or an episode that's just for women. We all struggle with these things, right? And humility is the gateway to healing. But man, in particular, with toxic masculinity, I think the reason why things are, I think toxic masculinity comes from this very thing. I don't think toxic masculinity has anything to do with what kind of truck you drive or how big your beard is or whether or not you can shoot a gun or change a tire or change the oil or cook out on a grill. Like, I don't think that, like, I think that there are things that, like, different men enjoy doing and, like, cool. You know what I mean? Like, I don't give a crap, dude. Like, I didn't grow up learning how to use woodwork or, like, or how to use, like, power tools or anything like that. Like, if something needs to be fixed around my house, like, I am totally comfortable within myself to call my father-in-law and go, hey, man, like, when you come this weekend, can you fix this? And he'll go, yes. Yeah. I don't care about that. Like, there is nothing, I don't think that toxic masculinity is found in that. I think where toxic masculinity comes in is when, instead of teaching our boys humility, we just let the arrogance run rampant. You know, and eventually that turns into an abuse of power. It turns into an abuse of ego. It turns into I'm going to get what I want, period. And if I got to smack a girl to get that, to impose my will, to impose my power, then that's toxic masculinity, okay. Right? I think really what it boils down to, man, toxic masculinity comes from toxic fathers who don't know how to regulate their own emotions. And so because they're afraid of their emotions, because of pride, they're afraid of how they're going to be perceived by other people. They're afraid of being looked at as if they are weak. Then they go, I can't show emotion. I can't regulate my emotions. I can't show my emotions. And I'm not going to, because the moment that I do, everyone's going to look at me as less of a man. And so we pass that down to our kids, right? And it's tough because there's a line, right? Like, I don't want my kid to be, I don't want him to be weak. Like, I want him to be able to stand up for himself. I want him to be able to stand on business if he's got to stand on business, right? But I also don't want him to be so hard that he thinks it's like bad to cry, or that he thinks that he can't like feel like his emotions, that he can't grieve, that he can't, be sad, or that he can't be disappointed, or that he can't be angry without punching a hole in the wall. Like, I don't want him to feel, that if I cry, then I'm less of a man. People are going to make fun of me. There's this movie that we watched recently called The Iron Claw, and it's a movie about the Von Erich brothers. They're a wrestling family from Texas. They were really popular like in like the 70s and 80s. And the movie is incredible. And I don't want to give any spoilers. I mean, the real story of the Von Erich brothers is what it tells, and that's public. Like, everybody knows that basically there was 5 brothers or 6 brothers, and 5 of them died by suicide, by health complications, and most of them like were addicted to drugs or mentally ill. There was toxic masculinity within their family, and as you're watching this movie, man, Zac Efron plays the main character. Incredible. He deserves every award coming to him. Yeah. But the dad, it's like one of his brothers died, and like you can see in the movie, like none of them are crying. The whole family, like the dad, the mom, the brothers, none of them are crying because the dad won't let them. Wow. He's like, we don't cry. Wow. In fact, one of the brothers, he was the world champion. He was fighting for the world championship. When he died, the night of the funeral, the dad took all the boys out on the porch and was like, all right, who's going to replace him? Wow. Like, no grieving, no processing, just let's move on. And you better not cry. And at the end of the movie, man, Zac Efron is like sitting, he's like sitting in the backyard with his boys. And they're playing, and he's weeping. Just, a mess. And his boys come up to him, and they say, Dad, what's wrong? And he goes, I'm sorry, boys. You shouldn't see me cry. A man doesn't cry. And they said, we cry all the time. What do you mean? And it's like he finally feels like that freedom, that release to be able to like cry and be like, and understand that like being a man is not about not crying. It's being in touch with your emotions. It's being in touch with how you feel. It's being able to process and be aware enough of those feelings and being able to grow and heal and move on and deal with your stuff. You know what I mean? I think toxic masculinity has come from a generation of fathers who said, you better not cry. You better not get in your emotions. You better not express how you really feel. You better not trust people. You better not let people in. You better not do this. You better not do that. And what it led to was a bunch of men who are hard on the inside and damaged on the inside.
Wow.
Because nobody makes it out of life wound free.
Mm.
They just figured out a way to say, I ain't got no wounds. Now you're wounded, fam. Don't let toxic masculinity keep you from healing. Don't let pride keep you from healing.
Facts.
You know what I mean?
Facts.
So
I was thinking one of the things that helped my relationship with my children was the fact that they saw me cry for the first time when I started coming to church. They've never heard of me crying, express any emotion, if it wasn't anger. But when I came to church, I remember, man, I was so broken. That part where it says the Lord replaces your heart of stone with a heart of flesh, I really felt that internally, because now I'm the daddy who cries with these movies.
Yeah.
I'm the daddy who goes to my daughter's room and says, hey, I'm having a bad day today, and I just start crying and she's crying with me. And I teach my children to process their feelings the proper way. My son, when he started coming here to church 3 years ago, he had an anger problem. Always gaslighting his sister, always talking bad to his mama. And I remember I said, hey, let's go pray about this at the altar. And I heard him cry, man. And it broke me just to see a little me, just crying. So the other day I'm cleaning his room. Not that he couldn't do it. There's a dresser that obviously he can't move. And I was moving it. And behind the dresser, he had something that we do here called chips. He had his 1 year and his second year chip. And I said, hey, son, well, what's the meaning behind these chips? He's like, Dad, I haven't had an anger outburst in 2 years. And I'm like, man, I'm really, really proud of you. But he's also came to me and said, Dad, I feel really sad today. And I just give him a hug and he just cries. And then he goes about his day. We don't let that emotion dictate the whole day.
yeah.
And I've had days like that where I'm like, before I go into my house, I sit outside and I process my day. I process my feelings. And sometimes I'm out there crying. Wife come out, kids come out. Hey, what's wrong? Nothing. I'm really happy today. But I express it through tears, like gratitude. Worship songs. These worship songs hit different when you know what God has brought you out of. So it's just an expression. But talking about crying, a friend of mine, he's having some relationship problems with his wife. They're going through a separation. And the other day he told me that he had his kids over at home and he was cooking, and that he just thought of the beauty that he's able to see his kids. And he said he started crying. And he said the kids came down and his oldest son asked him, Daddy, are you crying? And he blamed it on the onions. I said, bro, embrace it next time. I need you to cry and let them see you. I said, hug them and tell them I'm in a happy place right now, even though everything seems to be falling apart. They might need to see you cry. His son, I remember a couple of weeks ago, he was at youth. I looked him right in his soul and I said, hey, is everything okay? And the little boy just started crying. I said, man, you got so much inside of you and I want to help you. Let me in. But to him, because he's never saw another man cry, I believe he's like, I shouldn't be crying. Crying is for girls. And I told him, I was like, man, I cry all the time. Sometimes when I go 2 weeks or something without crying, I'm like, dude, I haven't cried in a while.
Exactly.
I need to go listen to some worship song right around,
Yeah.
and I just need to cry. And I feel so much lighter.
Yeah.
Because those toxic traits want to come back into my life, and I'm like, no, I gotta do away with this. And my wife, she's like, do you really do that? I'm like, no, I literally do that. I tell all the men, set a date, set an appointment, go and cry. It's so relieving. And I love that like I said, again, my relationship with my children hit a pivot point whenever they heard me cry, whenever they saw me broken, whenever they saw me ask other people for help. Because like you said, I'm not a carpentry guy. So if I need help, I'm going to ask for help. I'm not going to try to figure out, go spend $500 only to find out that I could have just called somebody. I was thinking of something this morning, and weird that we touched on this, but I didn't know if I needed to teach my daughter how to check her oil in her car. You know, just something simple. Not, hey, I'm going to teach you how to change a motor.
Yeah.
I don't even know how to change a motor, but I thought maybe I need to teach my daughter how to, you know, just check her oil and maybe her tire pressure. Something, obviously, that I'm going to teach my son growing up, but am I going to be biased? Oh, she's a girl. I don't need to teach her. He's a boy. He's the only one who should know. I'm somewhere down the line where, like, I think I need to teach my daughter this. You know, God forbid she's in Raleigh one day and her tires are really low. Is she going to drive all the way back just so I can help her with the tires?
Yeah.
She's going to go to the gas station and check her own air pressure.
Yeah.
So it's been a beautiful thing navigating parenting with my daughter who's 17 and my son who's 12, because I tell him the same way I tell her, hey, you respect yourself around women, around girls, right? And I tell her to respect herself around boys and men. So I'm not just imposing that on her because she's a girl. I think a lot of times we believe, well, that happened to this girl because of what she was wearing. No. What about the guy? Did he not have a responsibility to say, I got to respect her even if she's not respecting herself? So it goes both ways at my house. And I've had to learn that part because before coming to church, I had another mentality. And I think one of the hardest things for me is unlearn things, unlearn the street codes. And it's been hard, bro.
And a lot of that, I mean, but the way to do that is humility.
Yeah.
Like unlearning things takes humility, because it means looking at yourself and going, man, I'm wrong about this.
Yes.
I am wrong about this. The way that I think about this is wrong, and I need to be humble enough to admit that. Right? I love what you're saying about parenting, man. Like, I think parenting will humble you quicker than almost anything. And it will also teach you so much, man. I think, like, for me, like, you know, obviously, like, I'm not preaching perfection.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I'm not perfect. Even though I have a podcast about mental health, my mental health sucks sometimes. Yeah. I'll come home some days, man. I had a moment last night, bro. Like, legitimately, last night, my son bought this Goku toy from Target, and he thought it was just an action figure. And it's not. Like, you have to build it. Like, it's all these little pieces that come in all these little things, and you got to put it all together. A nightmare. Wow. And, dude, there was something here, okay, like, where, you know, I know, I'm confident that my son knows that it's okay to show his emotions, because he does. He is an emotional guy, and I am too. Like, I'll cry at the drop of a hat. Like, I don't care. Like, and I'll drop the hat. You know what I mean? Like, my wife, it's funny. My wife we have a little joke. Like, if we watch a movie or a show and it's an emotional moment, like, she'll look over me and she'll go, "You crying?" I'm like, "Man, leave me alone. Like, let me cry over here." You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm the same way. Like, if it's been a while since I've cried, like, I'll go put on a movie that I know makes me cry, and I'll just go embrace it. You know what I mean? Like, it just is what it is. And it doesn't mean that I'm weird or that I'm weak. It just means that I need to let something go. You know what I mean? Like, there's just something inside of me that I need to get out, you know? And so last night, you know, he ends up breaking one of these pieces and loses it. I mean, loses it. Right? I mean, he is, like, going for it. Like, Oscar nomination, dude. Like, wow. Just crying. And I'm not talking about just, like, I'm talking, I mean, he's going in, right? And I almost kind of got, like, annoyed for a second. I was like, bro, it's not that big of a deal. Like, it's a toy. You know what I mean? Like, come on. And in that moment, man, I had to, like, check myself. You know what I mean? Like, don't do that. Don't minimize. Yeah. You know, don't do that. And one thing that I have to constantly do in humility with my kids is, when I don't get it right, I have to go make it right. And I would say that I would rather be the dad who doesn't always get it right, because that gives me the opportunity to go and apologize, to go and show humility to them so that they can see dad, when he's wrong, he apologizes. Like in his humility, he comes and he tries to make things right. And if they learn from that, then that means that when they get older, they'll learn how to do that too. You know what I mean? It's just it's a beautiful picture of humanity, is that we are broken creatures. Romans chapter 7, I keep doing the things that I don't want to do, and I do the things that I know I shouldn't do, right? And I don't do the things that it's a back and forth picture that Paul, it's like it's on repeat, but it is a picture of us, man. But like humility would have us point to the thought of, man, like even though I got it wrong, like I need to make it right. Like even though I got it wrong, I can apologize, I can repent, I can show humility in this moment. I don't have to let pride take me over. It's just so special, man. Like getting to pass that down to our kids, rather than toxic, masculinity. You better not cry. You better not say nothing. You better not show your emotions. You know what I mean? Like, man, just what a wonky way to live. You know what I mean? And I've seen it. Like I'm surrounded by it, man. Like, and you never get comfortable in your own self when you're full of pride.
I think we're all dysfunctional, man. Like none of us function the way God created us to function.
Yeah.
And one of the things for me was, now that we're touching on kids again, I remember.
Wait, rewind. We're talking about kids. We're not touching on kids. Okay.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I remember watching the Lion King movie when I was little.
Oh, dude, it gets me every time.
Well, the part with Simba's daddy dies.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't cry when I was little. I wanted to, but I didn't. And the reason was because when I was 6 years old, and I guess I shared, I was raised by my grandparents, came to the United States when I was 6 years old. So my mom and my siblings and my dad were strangers to me, right? So I remember sitting at the door, man, 6 years old, always waiting for my grandma to walk through the door. She never walked through, right? But I remember my mom telling me, you need to stop crying or I'm going to give you a reason to cry.
Yeah.
So I knew right away I can't express my feelings. So what happens the first time I try beer? I get drunk with some friends and I start crying. Guess what my friends did? They didn't tell me stop crying or I'm going to give you a reason to cry. They hugged me. They loved me. They said, hey, it's okay. It's going to be okay. That felt like love. So I felt these are my people. And if I want to hang out with them, I got to keep doing what they do, right? So the family dysfunction for us was we didn't know how to love. My mama, no doubt in my mind that my mama loves me. But she was just giving me crumbs of love, just enough love so that I wouldn't die. But I still was starving. So when I saw love in different forms that weren't healthy, I was attracted to that because I was better than what I was getting at home. And even to this day, I wish my mama would tell me, hey, I messed up. My mama's never told me, hey, I'm proud of you. I've seen where you were at. I've seen where you're at now. And I love my mama. We've made amends. The relationship is still not where I want it to be, but it's better than before. I don't call and check on my mama. She don't call and check on me. But I have faith that God is going to do a work in her. And it's not on my timing. It's on his. I remember the first time I cried to my mama as an adult. And that was 3 years ago, being in, my process. And that was the first time I ever cried to my mom. When you're sick, you want your mama the most. I remember when I was sick, it was kind of me by myself. I remember she'd get upset just because the medicine was nasty. I'm sure as a kid you've known that you took medicine and it was just nasty. I remember spitting it out a couple of times, and even that was a problem, So I know that she's been through a lot, and I just hope that one day she can come to peace with everything she's done so that we can have a great and healthy relationship.
Yeah.
I told my kids, and I said, I'm not ready for it, but I can't wait to be a granddaddy. I said I can't wait for y'all to bring your children one day, and I'm the best grandpa because now I've learned through you guys what to and what not to do, and it's still a learning thing. We've only been here 3 years.
Yeah,
we're still learning, and that whole apologizing to them, that was key to me. Like if I said something out of pocket, something out of a spur moment, I need to calm down and go to their room and say, hey, I just want to apologize for the way I said this. I might have meant what I said, but the way I delivered it was not how I should have delivered it.
Yeah. Man, I didn't think this podcast was going to go this direction, but I'm glad it did, man. I think there's a lot of, I think if you're listening to this podcast and you're wondering, maybe you're a parent, maybe you're you're trying to figure all this stuff out too. Like you're not alone. You know what I mean? We're all struggling. We're all trying to figure this stuff out, and none of us are perfect, but man, we are. I think humility, again, man, is key. It's humility. To me, humility is the key to life. I really do believe that. If pride is the thing that keeps us in prison, then humility is the key. And when we talk about humility, anything regarding mental health, man, if you're listening and you're dealing with depression, if you're dealing with anxiety, if you're dealing with, just dealing with past traumas, if you're dealing with self-hatred, if you're dealing with, just fear, loneliness, like anything that you could think of, humility is the key out of those things, and pride will keep you in it.
Yeah.
Like if you're wondering, well, how does humility help me when I'm depressed? Well, pride will keep you depressed because you'll believe that no one can help you. You will believe that, your situation is unique, that nobody understands, and you won't ask for help. You'll just sit there. The biggest thing that I learned when it comes to depression, because I dealt with it for so long, like actual depression, like no reason, like nothing brought it on. Like I just wake up, dude, numb. Didn't want to get out of bed, didn't want to work, didn't want to go anywhere, like nothing, right? Didn't want to take care of myself. It's in those moments, man, that if I stay there in my pride, then I'll just stay depressed. But it was in those moments where I had to reach out for help and go, man, I can't do this all alone today. I don't even feel like getting out of bed. I don't even feel like, I had to reach out to people that loved me, that wanted to help me, anxiety, you know what I mean? Like there's a lot of pride within anxiety because anxiety is really just a control thing. We have anxiety because we don't know the outcome of whatever's going on and we want to control that. And when we don't have control over that, we get in our pride, like we get upset and it just fuels the anxiety more. How do you do that? By letting go of the things you can't control. That's humility. Like I'm not in control here, any time that you're dealing with something, humility is the key. Are you struggling in your marriage? Because if you are, pride will keep you struggling in your marriage. You want to win every argument with your spouse. You don't want anybody else to know what you're going through because you got to keep that image up. You don't want to ask for help because you're afraid that people will judge you and judge your marriage. But how do you get help in your marriage? By reaching out. I need help. We need help. Right? Are you struggling financially? Guess what? Pride will keep you there. But humility, it'll get you out. Go hire a CPA. Find somebody who's further along financially than you are.
Yeah.
Don't be ashamed to let them know that you got all this debt, that you got all this credit racked up, that you got this, that, and the third. You don't know how to manage your budget. Like, you need help, right? Humility is the key. Are you struggling with your kids? Humility is the key. Because pride will have you sitting there going, no, I got this. I can figure this out. I'm going to parent the way that my parents parented me. Okay, good luck. That's why you're here right now in this place. You gotta, and that's not a knock on how we're raised. Like, yo, it's a different time, right? But we can be humble enough to go, yeah, like some of those things aren't going to fly in my house. Like some of those things that the way that I was raised, like I'm not going to raise my kids that way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and there are other things that maybe were done right, and you go, hey, like I'm humble enough to go that like I need to work on that. And the way that I learned that was correct from my parents. Because a lot of us will just write everything off and go, oh no, bump that. No, well, there are some good things. Like my mom, like passed a lot of good traits down. Not everything, but there was some stuff that was really good. You know what I mean? We don't do gentle parenting in my home. Just don't do it. I'm not knocking on people that do it.
Yeah.
Like if that's what you want to do, go for it. But we don't do that. We believe in discipline. We don't believe in like, giving our kids like the choice to do everything they want to do. Like, we're teaching them, it's not just about you. You're not the center of the universe. God is. And there are times in our walk with Jesus that he's going to let you know, this is not about you, bruh. You're not the center of attention here. This is about me. I'm God, not you. And even from that perspective of just teaching your kids, like, you're not always going to get what you want. Life sucks. It's going to be hard. You're going to have to figure this out, right? And that doesn't mean that we're not good parents. That just means that we're trying to teach our kids humility.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, I think humility is the key. It is the key to life. It's the key to healing. It's the key to, here's another one. I just throw this out there. This is something I'm dealing with right now. When you have an offense with someone, pride will have you focusing in on what they did to you. But the chances are is that you probably didn't do everything right either. And pride will have you focusing on the offense rather than how you handled yourself too. And in order to heal and reconcile, you've got to be humble enough, self-aware enough to see your crap and go, yeah, like I know that they really attacked me, but I didn't handle myself well either. Like I didn't say the right things. I didn't do the right things. Like and when you get to that place of self-awareness and honesty and humility, like things start working a little bit better. You know what I mean? It's humility is the key. It is the key. And I'm convinced of that. I'm gung-ho on that. And I'll die on that hill for as long as I live. Humility is the key. It leads to self-awareness, which is it's not the fix-all, but it's going to help you a lot. Self-awareness is so important. Humility solves the problem of toxic masculinity. It solves the problem of narcissism. It solves it, like humility, man. We cannot heal without humility, and it's just a fact. I wanna quote Abraham Lincoln to end the pod. You got anything else you wanna add?
Okay.
And I love this right here. This quote right here, I think it's just so appropriate. It says, "I have been driven many times upon my knees by the overwhelming conviction that I have nowhere else to go." If we are humble enough to know that we're weak, that we have nothing inside of ourselves to fix ourselves, that if we can approach everything with, I don't know everything, I don't have all the answers, and I'm humbly just approaching this. I'm humbly approaching life. I'm humbly approaching these relationships. I'm humbly approaching everything. Then we can find healing. We can finally find the things that we're looking for in this life. And so, thank you for tuning in today. I know that we were kind of all over the place, just trying to knock the rust off a little bit, but I feel good about the conversations, and we touched on a lot of different things, and I hope you got something out of it. I hope it blessed you. Humility really is the key. If you're finding yourself in situations, like figure out how can I approach this humbly. So I want to pray for you real quick, and then we're going to hop off. So Jesus, thank you. Lord, thank you for your presence. Thank you for your power. Thank you for this virtue, the Lord, that you desire for us to have called humility. God, I pray that if there's any pride in us, God, that you would expose it, you would reveal it, you would knock it down in the same way that you handled the Tower of Babel. God, when they wanted to build things their own way and do things their own way for their own self-interest, God, you said, I cannot allow that. And you ultimately provided humility for them. God, I pray that you would do the same thing in us, help us, love on us, and guide us. Holy Spirit, be our wisdom, be our discernment. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. Hey, thank you for tuning in today. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening, wherever you are doing that. If you are watching, listening, we want to encourage you again to just keep sharing our content. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Give us 5-star ratings on Spotify, on Apple, anywhere that you can. Anytime that you see a reel, anytime you see a post, get that out for us. We need all the help with the algorithm that we can get. It would mean the world to us for you to do that. We're just trying to get this message of mental health and help and hope out to the world. And we're trying to change the opinion of mental health one episode at a time. So thank you again for tuning in. We're excited about the future. We are not dead. We were gone for a little bit. We are dead inside, but we are not dead. Life is here. We are kicking. We are moving. And we're excited for the future. So be on the lookout for future episodes. Be on the lookout for future guests. It's going to be good. And we're excited. So Dead Inside, episode 5, The Power of Humility. We are out. Peace.